A company can have a brilliant idea, a real product, and paying customers, and still run out of money. Because building, growing, and competing all cost cash before they ever pay anything back. In this episode, we answer two questions. First, why do companies, even profitable ones, constantly need money? And second, when they need it, what are their options? Because that second question leads to the single most important fork in all of business finance, and it's the doorway to the stock market itself. Let's start by clearing up a common misconception. It's tempting to assume that a profitable company must be swimming in spare cash. In reality, it usually isn't. Profit tends to get used up almost as fast as it arrives. It's reinvested back into the business, or it's tied up in things like unsold stock, equipment, and bills that customers haven't paid yet. On top of that, growth itself costs money before it ever pays you back. If you want to open a new factory, you have to build and equip it now, and only earn from it months or years later. That gap has to be funded from somewhere. So here's the truth. Almost every ambitious company, whether it's currently profitable or not, regularly needs to raise money from outside. Being hungry for cash isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of ambition. So what exactly does a company spend all this money on? Broadly, four things. First, growth and expansion, opening new outlets, moving into new cities, even new countries. Second, equipment and infrastructure, the factories, machines, technology, and offices that let it actually produce and operate. Third, hiring, bringing in the talented people needed to do more and to do it better. And fourth, research and development, the often expensive, often slow work of inventing the products and services of the future. Every one of these is an investment in tomorrow that has to be paid for today. And that brings us to the real question of this episode. When a company needs that money, where does it come from? A company really has two places it can get money from. The first is internal, its own profits, kept inside the business and reinvested, rather than paid out to owners. This is the cleanest possible source. It's the company's own money, with no strings attached and nobody new to answer to. The catch is that internal profit is often slow to build up, and frequently it's just not enough to fund big ambitions like building a factory or expanding overseas. So companies turn to the second source, external money, money that comes from other people. And when a company reaches outside for money, it faces one fundamental choice, a fork in the road that shapes everything about its future. That fork is the heart of this entire episode. Here it is, the most important fork in business finance. When a company raises money from outside, there are really only two fundamental ways to do it. And every financing method you'll ever hear of is just a version of one of these two. The first is equity. With equity, the company sells ownership. It gives investors a genuine slice of the company in exchange for their money. The second is debt. With debt, the company borrows. It takes a loan that it must pay back later, with interest, while keeping all of its ownership intact. That's the entire choice, and you can hold it in a single sentence. A company can either sell a piece of the pie, or it can borrow against it. Everything else in raising money flows from this one decision. Let's take each path in turn, starting with equity. When a company raises money through equity, it hands investors shares, a real permanent slice of ownership in the business, exactly the idea we built up across earlier episodes. The big advantage is that there is nothing to repay. The investor's money becomes part of the company. If the business hits a rough patch, there's no loan repayment hanging over its head demanding to be paid. That's a genuine safety benefit. But equity has a real cost, and it's a deep one. By giving away ownership, the company gives away a piece of every future profit, not for a year, but forever. And it gives away a share of control, since owners get a say in how things are run. So the trade is clear. Equity money never has to be returned, but the price you pay is a permanent piece of the company itself. Now the other path, debt. When a company raises money through debt, it borrows a sum and makes a promise to repay that money by a certain date, along with interest, which is the cost of borrowing. The great advantage here is control. The company keeps 100% of its ownership. The lender is owed money, but gets no slice of the profits and no say in how the company is run. Once the loan is repaid, the relationship is simply over. But debt carries its own danger, and it's a sharp one. Those repayments are owed no matter what happens. In a fantastic year, that's easy. But in a bad year, when sales fall and cash is tight, the loan and its interest still have to be paid, on schedule, or the company is in serious trouble. So debt lets you keep the entire pie, but the bill comes due whether business is booming or breaking. There's one more difference between these two paths, and it's crucial. It's about who gets paid first when things are decided. If a company does brilliantly, its owners can earn enormously because there's no ceiling on the upside of ownership. The bigger the company grows, the more their slice is worth. But if a company struggles or fails altogether, there's a strict pecking order, and it always runs the same way. Lenders get paid before owners. The people who lent money get their due first. The owners only receive whatever is left over, which in a failure can be nothing at all. So you can see the fundamental trade-off. Lenders take less risk, and in return get a fixed, promised reward, their interest. Owners take more risk, but in return they get the leftover, which can be either nothing or a fortune. It's that same rule we met right at the start of this channel. Risk and reward always travel together. There is no reward without risk. Step back, and you can see why this choice is about far more than money. It quietly decides who is in charge of the company. Choose the equity path, and you welcome new part owners through the door, people who now share in your profits and have a voice in your decisions. You've gained money, but you've given away a measure of control. Choose the debt path, and you stay firmly in charge. The company remains entirely yours, but you now carry the constant weight of repayment on your shoulders. Neither is simply right or wrong. In fact, most real companies use a thoughtful mix of both, balancing the safety of equity against the control of debt, depending on their situation. And that's the deep lesson of this episode. How a company chooses to raise its money quietly determines who ultimately controls it. That's why this single fork matters so enormously. Let's bring it together. 1. Even profitable companies are constantly hungry for cash, to grow, to buy equipment, to hire, and to fund research. 2. That money comes either from inside, through reinvested profit, or from outside, through other people, and going outside forces a choice. 3. That choice is the fundamental fork, equity, which means selling ownership or debt, which means borrowing and repaying with interest. 4. Equity means no repayment, but you give away a slice of profit and control forever, while debt lets you keep control, but you must repay no matter what. And 5. If things go wrong, lenders are always paid before owners, so debt is lower risk with a fixed reward, while equity is higher risk with unlimited reward. Master this fork, and you understand the engine room of the entire stock market. So now you understand the great fork, equity versus debt. Over the next few episodes, we're going to walk down each road in detail. And we'll start with the borrowing path, debt. How exactly does a company borrow large sums? What's the difference between a simple loan and a bond? And what does it really mean to be the borrower rather than the owner? That's where we head next. This is the market story, from the basics all the way to advanced, one story at a time. If this made the great borrow or share choice finally click for you, please hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, and it's the single biggest way you help this channel grow and reach more people just starting out. Drop a like so others can find it, and tap the bell so the next episode comes straight to you. See you there.